I'd never been here before. I didn't even know this place existed. But according to my mother's will, everything she wanted me to have was behind that orange metal door, and my mother died 3 weeks ago. We hadn't spoken in 15 years. 547 letters. That's what I found inside. 547 letters addressed to me, dated every single week for 15 years. Not one of them had ever been sent. Or so I thought. My name is Diana Whitmore. I'm 38 years old. And for the first 23 years of my life, my mother Ellen was my best friend. We told each other everything. We finished each other's sentences. We had inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. People used to say we were more like sisters than mother and daughter. Then, on March 15, 2009, everything shattered. One conversation. One accusation. One door slamming shut. You are not my daughter anymore. Those were the last words my mother ever spoke to me. I was 23 years old, standing in the rain outside her house with $300 in my pocket and nowhere to go. 15 years. 5 for 75 days of silence. No birthday calls. No Christmas cards. No I'm sorry. No I miss you. Just nothing. I built an entire life believing my mother hated me. I got married, had 2 children, bought a house, changed careers, all without her knowing. I thought she didn't care. I kept her number in my phone. Never deleted it. Sometimes, late at night, I'd hover my thumb over her name. Wondering if I should call. Wondering if she'd answer. Wondering if she even remembered she had a daughter named Diana. I never pressed dial. I was too afraid of what she might say. Or worse, what she might not say. 3 months ago, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Diana Whitmore? I'm calling from Hoboken Medical Center. Your mother Ellen Whitmore has been admitted. You're listed as her emergency contact. My mother was dying. Alzheimer's had taken her mind piece by piece over the past 4 years. And I didn't even know she was sick. By the time I got to the hospital, she didn't recognize me. She looked at me with those eyes I'd known my whole life, and there was nothing there. No anger. No love. No memory. Who are you? She asked. I'm Diana, Mom. I'm your daughter. She smiled politely. The way you smile at a stranger, that's nice, dear. I sat with her for 6 days. She slipped in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she'd mumble names I didn't recognize. Sometimes she'd hum songs from her childhood. Once, just once, she grabbed my hand and said, I tried to find you. I tried so hard. Then she was gone again, lost in whatever world her mind had retreated to. Ellen Marie Whitmore died on October 3, 2024, at 4:47 p.m. I was holding her hand. The last thing she said, about an hour before she passed, was, tell Diana I never stopped. Tell her the letters are in Hoboken. The nurse thought she was confused. Rambling. I thought so too. I was wrong. The reading of my mother's will took place 1 week after her funeral. It was a small affair. My stepfather Richard sat on one side of the lawyer's office. I sat on the other. We didn't speak. Richard had been married to my mother for 22 years. He was the reason I left. The reason for that fight in 2009. And now, we were about to learn who got what remained of her life. To my husband Richard, I leave the house at 742 Maple Street, all vehicles, and our joint savings account containing $127,000. Richard nodded. Satisfied. To my daughter Diana, I held my breath. I leave the contents of storage unit 441 at Hoboken Self-Storage, and this key. The lawyer slid a small brass key across the desk. That was it. No money. No property. Just a storage unit I didn't know existed. Richard laughed. Actually laughed. Storage unit? That's what she left you. How fitting. I stared at the key in my hand. Such a small thing. Cold metal against my palm. What's in it? I asked the lawyer. He shrugged. I don't know. Mrs. Whitmore was very specific that only you should open it. She made me promise. I drove to Hoboken the next morning. October 12, 2024. The storage facility was exactly what you'd expect. Concrete floors. Fluorescent lights. The smell of dust and forgotten things. Unit 441 was on the 4th floor. End of the hallway. An orange metal door with a brass padlock. My hands were shaking as I inserted the key. The lock clicked. I lifted the door, and my entire understanding of the past 15 years collapsed. Boxes. Dozens of them. Stacked floor to ceiling against every wall, each one labeled with a year, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, all the way to 2024, and in the center of the unit, a small wooden table with a single envelope addressed to me in my mother's handwriting for Diana. Read this first. I sat on the cold concrete floor, leaned against a box labeled 2015, and opened the envelope. My mother's handwriting. Shaky, she must have written this after the Alzheimer's started. But unmistakably hers. I need to pause here for a moment. If you've ever lost someone before you had the chance to say goodbye, if you've ever wondered whether the people who hurt you ever thought about you at all, I want you to comment "I understand" below. Because what I read in that letter changed everything I believed about my mother, about my stepfather, and about those 15 years of silence. Let me read it to you. My dearest Diana, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I owe you an explanation I should have given you 15 years ago. That night in 2009, when I said those horrible words, when I told you that you weren't my daughter anymore, I didn't mean them. Not a single word. Richard made me choose. You or him. He said if I didn't cut you off, he would leave and take everything. The house. The savings. Everything your father left us when he died. I was weak, Diana. I was 52 years old, terrified of being alone, terrified of losing everything I'd worked for, so I chose wrong. I chose safety over love. I chose fear over you, and I've regretted it every single day since. That same night, after you left, I started writing to you. I told myself I'd send the letter tomorrow. And then tomorrow became next week, and next week became next month. I wrote you every single week for 15 years. 547 letters, and I never sent a single one. Or so I thought. I opened the box labeled 2009. Inside, 42 envelopes. Each one addressed to me at my old apartment in Brooklyn. Each one with a return address, my mother's house. Each one stamped with a red postal stamp. Return to sender, return to sender. I stared at those words. My heart stopped. These letters had been sent. All 547 of them. Every single week for 15 years, and my mother had mailed them. Someone had returned them. I ripped open the first envelope. Dated March 22, 2009, 1 week after our fight. My darling Diana, I don't know how to begin. I said terrible things. Things I didn't mean. Please forgive me. Please call me. Please let me explain. I love you more than anything in this world. That will never change. Your mother, Ellen. I tore through box after box. 2010. Happy birthday, my sweet girl. You're 24 today. I hope you're well. I hope you're happy. I hope you know I think of you every single day. 2011. I drove by your old apartment today. Someone else lives there now. Where are you, Diana? Why don't you write back? 2012. I hired a private investigator to find you. He said you moved to Connecticut. You got married. I'm so happy and so heartbroken that I wasn't there. 2013. I stood outside the church where you got married. Did you know that? I was there. I watched through the window. You were so beautiful in your white dress. I wanted so badly to come inside. But I was afraid you'd tell me to leave. So I just watched, and then I drove home alone. My mother was at my wedding. 20 feet from the door, and I never knew. 2015, the investigator told me you had a baby. A little girl. You named her Emma. My granddaughter. I have a granddaughter I've never held. I've never smelled her hair or kissed her cheeks or heard her laugh. I wonder if she has your eyes. She did. Emma has my eyes. And my mother's smile. They never met. 2018. You have a second child now. A boy named Lucas. I drive by your house sometimes. I know I shouldn't. But I need to see that you're okay. I saw you in the front yard last week, playing with both children. You looked happy. That's all I want for you. To be happy. Even without me. She drove by my house. She watched my children play. She never knocked on the door. 547 letters. 15 years. Every single week, and I received none of them. Not one. My mother thought I was ignoring her. She thought I was so angry that I returned every letter unopened, but I never saw them. I never knew she was trying to reach me. Someone intercepted every single one. When I moved to Connecticut in 2010, I left a forwarding address with the post office. Any mail sent to my old apartment would be redirected to my new address, but there was someone at my old apartment building who knew me. Someone who knew my mother. Someone who had a key to the building's mailroom. My stepfather's brother. Harold Whitmore. He lived 2 floors above my old apartment. Harold had moved there in 2008, 1 year before my fight with my mother. At the time, I thought it was a coincidence. Now I understood. Richard had positioned his brother in my building. When the letters started arriving, Harold collected them. Every single one. And he sent them back, marked return to sender, for 15 years. I need to stop here again. Because what I'm about to tell you is the part that still keeps me awake at night. The part that makes me question everything I thought I knew about family, about trust, about the people we allow into our lives. If you've ever discovered that someone you trusted was secretly working against you, if you've ever learned that your pain was manufactured by someone else's cruelty, comment betrayed below. Let me know I'm not alone, because the letters weren't the only thing Richard stole from me. My mother's letter continued. I found out about Harold 6 months ago. That's when I started putting these letters in storage instead of mailing them. I knew he'd never get them if they went through the post office, but Diana, you need to understand, for 14 years, I believed you hated me. I believed you were choosing silence. I believed my daughter was alive somewhere, receiving my letters, and throwing them away without reading them. Richard told me that was for the best. He said you'd made your choice. He said I needed to move on. He was lying to me. The whole time. He engineered our separation, and then he profited from my grief. You know what he did with the time and money I could have spent with you? He bought a boat. He took trips to Europe. He played golf every weekend at the country club. He lived his best life while I cried myself to sleep wondering why my daughter had abandoned me. $340,000. That's how much Richard spent on himself in the 15 years since I left. The boat, $89,000. The European trips, $127,000. The golf club memberships, $62,000. The car upgrades, $62,000. My mother kept records. Bank statements. Credit card bills. All in the storage unit. While she wrote letters to a daughter she thought had abandoned her, her husband was spending her savings on luxury. But here's what makes it even worse. My mother didn't discover Richard's scheme because she got suspicious. She discovered it because she got sick. In 2023, when the Alzheimer's started affecting her memory, she began writing herself notes. Reminders. Observations. One day, she wrote, Richard's brother Harold lives in Brooklyn. Same building as Diana's old apartment. Why did I never mention this? That one note led her down a rabbit hole. She found the receipt for Harold's apartment, paid for by Richard. She found phone records showing Harold called Richard every week. Always on the same day the letters would have arrived. She found emails between the brothers discussing the Diana situation. Her mind was failing her, but she put the pieces together anyway. Because a mother's love for her child doesn't forget, even when everything else does. The Diana situation, that's what they called me. Like I was a problem to be managed. A variable to be eliminated. I sat on the floor of that storage unit for 4 hours. Reading letters. Looking at evidence. Crying so hard I could barely breathe. My mother spent 14 years in pain because of a lie. I spent 15 years without a mother because 2 men decided that was more convenient for them. The last box was labeled for Diana video. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Watch this last. When you're ready. I wasn't ready. I don't think I'll ever be ready, but I plugged the drive into my phone anyway. My mother's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired. Fragile. Her hair was thinner than I remembered. But her eyes were the same eyes that had watched me take my first steps, that had stayed open all night when I had fevers, that had cried at my high school graduation. Hi, baby girl, she said. If you're watching this, it means I finally told you the truth. I'm recording this in January 2024. The doctors say I have maybe a year left. My mind is already starting to go, but I need you to know something, Diana. Something I should have told you 15 years ago. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Losing you was the worst mistake I ever made. And even though I can't remember what I had for breakfast, I remember every moment of raising you. I remember the day you were born. October 15th, 1986. 3:42 a.m. 6 pounds, 11 ounces. You had a full head of dark hair and the loudest cry the nurses had ever heard. Your father said, she's going to be trouble. He was smiling when he said it. He was right. You were trouble. The best kind of trouble. I remember your first steps. You were 11 months old, earlier than any baby I'd ever seen. You walked straight across the living room and grabbed the cat's tail. The cat was not pleased. I laughed through my tears. I'd heard this story 100 times. But hearing it now, in my mother's failing voice, felt like coming home. I remember your high school graduation. You gave a speech about perseverance. About how failing doesn't mean you're a failure. You had the whole auditorium in tears. Including me. That's when I knew you were going to do incredible things. And you have, Diana. You have. He video continued for 23 minutes. My mother talked about my first boyfriend. She hated him. She was right. My college years. She was so proud. My early career struggles. She wanted to help but knew I needed to figure it out myself. She talked about the day she met Richard, and for the first time, I understood how it happened. When your father died, I was 49 years old. I'd never been alone. I didn't know how. Richard showed up at the funeral. He was charming. Attentive. He said all the right things. I was vulnerable, Diana. I was so vulnerable. And he knew exactly how to exploit that. Within a year, we were married. Within 2 years, I realized I'd made a mistake, but by then, everything was tangled together. The finances. The house. The routines. I felt trapped, and then you started questioning him. Asking why he controlled the bank accounts. Asking why he never wanted me to visit you alone. Asking why his brother conveniently lived in your building. You saw him clearly. And that threatened him. The fight we had in 2009, the one that ended everything, Richard staged it. He told me you'd said terrible things about me. That you'd called me weak, pathetic, a bad mother. He worked me into a fury before you even walked through the door. When you tried to defend yourself, when you tried to tell me what you'd actually said, I was too angry to listen. He had already poisoned my mind. I told you that you weren't my daughter anymore. Those words. Those horrible, unforgivable words. I've replayed that moment every day for 15 years. Wishing I could take it back. Wishing I'd listened. Wishing I'd been stronger, but I wasn't. And I lost you. The video paused. My mother looked directly at the camera. I need you to know something, Diana. I don't expect you to forgive me. What I did, what I allowed to happen, is unforgivable, but I need you to know that I tried to fix it. From the very next day, I tried to reach you. 547 letters. Every single one returned. I thought you didn't want me. I thought my own daughter hated me so much she wouldn't even open an envelope. Richard told me to stop. He said I was humiliating myself. He said you'd made your choice and I needed to accept it. I believed him, Diana. God help me, I believed him. Because the alternative was too painful. The alternative was accepting that something was wrong. That my letters were being stolen. That my husband was lying to me. It was easier to believe you hated me than to believe I was being manipulated. I need to pause one more time. My mother wasn't stupid. She wasn't naive. She was a successful woman who raised me on her own after my father died. But grief makes us vulnerable. Loneliness makes us blind. And the people who hurt us most are often the ones we trust most. If you've ever looked back on a relationship and wondered how you missed the red flags, if you've ever blamed yourself for someone else's manipulation, comment I didn't see it below. Because my mother spent 14 years blaming herself for something that was never her fault. I found out the truth 6 months ago, Diana. When I realized what Richard and Harold had done, I confronted him. He didn't even deny it. He just shrugged and said, she was turning you against me. I did what I had to do. 15 years. 547 letters. My relationship with my only child. I did what I had to do. That's when I started putting everything in storage. The letters. The evidence. This video. I knew my mind was failing. I knew I might not be able to tell you in person. But I needed you to know the truth. I needed you to know that I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. Not for 1 day. Every letter I wrote, every tear I cried, every time I drove past your house just to see your light on, that was my love trying to find its way back to you. The video was almost over. My mother's voice was getting weaker. I don't have much time left, baby. The doctors say months, maybe weeks, but before I go, I need to say something I should have said 15 years ago. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to stand up to Richard. I'm sorry I let fear control my choices. I'm sorry I missed your wedding, your children, your whole beautiful life, but I need you to know, every single day of those 15 years, I loved you. I love you, Diana. I love Emma and Lucas, even though I've never met them. I love the woman you've become, even though I wasn't there to see it happen. You are my greatest accomplishment. You are my heart walking around outside my body. You always will be. I'm going to stop now. My hand is shaking and I don't want you to see me fall apart. But Diana, if there's any way you can, if there's any room in your heart for a mother who failed you, please tell my grandchildren about me. The real me. Not the woman who said terrible things in 2009, but the woman who wrote 547 letters trying to take them back. I love you, baby girl. Forever and always, Mom. The video ended. I sat there in that storage unit, surrounded by 15 years of love I never received, and I cried harder than I've ever cried in my life. My mother didn't abandon me. She spent 15 years trying to reach me, and I never knew. I drove to Richard's house that same night. He answered the door in his bathrobe. Surprised to see me, Diana? What are you? I know 2 words. I watched his face change. I know what you did. He tried to lie. Of course he did. I don't know what you're talking about. 547 letters. 15 years. Your brother Harold. The Diana situation. He went pale. She told you. She showed me everything, Richard. Every letter. Every bank statement. Every email between you and Harold. It's all documented. Every single crime you committed. What do you want? I looked at this man who had stolen 15 years of my life. Who had manipulated my mother until the day she died. Who had watched her grieve for me and done nothing. I want you to know something, Richard. I'm going to the police tomorrow. Mail fraud is a federal crime. What you and Harold did is punishable by up to 5 years in prison, but that's not even the worst part for you. I've also spoken with a lawyer. My mother's will left you the house. But my mother's will was written under coercive control. My mother was mentally manipulated for 22 years by a man who isolated her from her family. Every asset you've inherited, I'm contesting it. All $127,000 in savings. The house. The car. Everything. You're going to spend the rest of your life in court. Richard's face crumbled. Diana, you have to understand, your mother was difficult. She never let go of you. She talked about you constantly. It was driving me crazy. So you stole my mail? I was trying to help her move on. You were trying to isolate her. There's a difference. I didn't stay to hear his excuses. I walked to my car, drove to a parking lot, and called my husband, Tom. I need you to meet me somewhere. I just learned something and I can't be alone right now. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Where are you?" "I'm coming." "That's how you know you married the right person." Tom held me while I cried. Then he held me while I raged. Then he held me while I cried again. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want justice. But more than that." I took a shaky breath. "I want my kids to know their grandmother. The real her. Not the 15 years of silence. The 547 letters." That weekend, I sat down with Emma and Lucas. Emma is 9. Lucas is 6. Old enough to understand some things. Too young for others. "I need to tell you about your grandmother," I said. "My mom. Her name was Ellen. And she loved you very, very much." Lucas frowned. "But we never met her." "I know, baby. And I'm going to explain why. I didn't tell them everything. Not about Richard. Not about the betrayal. I told them that Grandma Ellen got sick, and that her sickness made it hard for us to see each other. I told them that she wrote letters to them, even though they'd never been born yet, because she knew someday they would exist. I read them some of those letters, the ones where she wondered what they'd look like. What their names would be. Whether they'd have my stubbornness or my father's patience. Emma cried. "Grandma knew about us? She knew about you before you were born, sweetheart. And she loved you before she ever met you, but we never got to love her back." I pulled my daughter close. "That's not true, baby. We can love her now. We can read her letters and look at her pictures and tell her stories. Love doesn't stop just because someone's gone." That night, Emma asked if we could hang a picture of Grandma Ellen in her room. "I want to see her when I wake up," she said. So she knows I'm thinking about her. We found a photo from 2005, my mother at 50, laughing at something off camera, her whole face lit up with joy. That's the grandmother my children know now. Not the silence. Not the absence. The joy. 2 weeks later, I filed a police report. Richard and Harold were both charged with federal mail fraud, a crime carrying up to 5 years in prison. The prosecutor called it one of the most deliberately cruel cases of family manipulation she'd ever seen. Harold pleaded guilty immediately. He got 18 months. Richard tried to fight it. He hired an expensive lawyer. Claimed he was protecting my mother from undue emotional stress. Said the letters were upsetting her and he was just doing what was best. The judge didn't buy it. Neither did the jury. Richard Whitmore was found guilty of mail fraud, conspiracy, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Sentence: 3 years in federal prison plus forfeiture of all assets acquired through the manipulation, including the house at 742 Maple Street and the $127,000 in savings plus $50,000 in restitution to me for documented emotional damages. He'll be 74 when he gets out. If he lives that long, people ask me if I felt satisfied when the verdict came in. I didn't. Justice doesn't undo what was done. It doesn't give me back 15 years. It doesn't let my mother meet her grandchildren, but it means something. It means the truth is on the record. It means Richard can't lie anymore, not to himself, not to anyone else. It means my mother's pain is finally acknowledged. But the trial isn't actually the end of this story, because something happened a month after the verdict that I never expected. Something that made all of this pain worth it. If you're still with me, keep watching. Because I promise you, this final chapter is the one that matters most. And if you've ever wondered whether it's too late to reconnect with someone you've lost, whether the damage can ever truly be repaired, comment "it's not too late" below, because sometimes healing comes from the most unexpected places. 1 month after Richard's conviction, I got an email subject line: "You don't know me, but I think I knew your mother." The sender's name: Margaret Ellen Holloway. My hands started shaking before I even opened it. "Dear Diana, my name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old. I live in Philadelphia. I saw the news coverage of the trial. I saw the photos of your mother Ellen. This is going to sound impossible, but I need to ask you something. Was your mother adopted?" "My mother was adopted. I'd known this my whole life. She was given up at birth in 1954 and adopted by the Whitmore family when she was 3 weeks old. She'd never found her birth mother. She'd looked, on and off, for decades. But the records were sealed. It was a different time." I wrote back to Margaret: "Yes, she was adopted." "Why?" Margaret's response came within an hour: "Because I think Ellen was my sister. My mother had twins in 1954. One she kept. One she gave away. I've spent my whole life looking for her. I found the court records last year, but by then, by the time I found her name, she was already gone. I am so sorry I'm too late to meet her. But Diana, if you're willing, I'd very much like to meet you." We did DNA tests to confirm Margaret Ellen Holloway is my mother's twin sister. My aunt and my mother had a sister she never knew about. A sister who was looking for her at the exact same time she was looking for me. 2 women, searching for family, missing each other by months. I met Margaret in Philadelphia 3 weeks later. She looks exactly like my mother. Same eyes. Same smile. Same way of tilting her head when she listens. When she hugged me, she said, "You look just like Ellen in the photos I've seen." "You look just like her too," I whispered. "I know," Margaret said. "Isn't it wonderful?" Margaret met Emma and Lucas last month. "I'm your great-aunt," she told them. "I'm your grandmother's twin sister." Lucas looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "You have Grandma Ellen's eyes." Margaret started to cry. "I've waited 67 years for someone to say that," she said. "Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for seeing her in me." We read my mother's letters as a family now. 1 every Sunday, after dinner. Emma picks the envelope. Lucas reads the date. I read the words. It's become a ritual. A way of keeping her present. 547 letters. At 1 per week, that's more than 10 years of Sundays. My children will be adults by the time we finish. Emma started writing back. She writes letters to Grandma Ellen, even though they can never be sent. She tells her about school, about her friends, about the things she's learning. Maybe she can read them from heaven, Emma said. I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. We visit her grave every month now, not just me. Emma. Lucas. Tom. And now, Margaret. 5 people standing around a grave, talking to someone who should have been there with us. Someone who would have loved family dinners and birthday parties and Christmas mornings. Someone who spent 15 years trying to find her way back to me. We set a place for her at Thanksgiving. Tom's idea. An empty chair at the head of the table with a place setting and one of her favorite flowers. Lucas asked why there was no food on Grandma's plate. Because she doesn't eat anymore, Emma explained, very serious. But she can still watch us. And she likes seeing us together. I couldn't speak for a full minute. I've read all 547 letters now. Some of them multiple times. The early ones are desperate. Frantic. My mother begging me to respond, not understanding why I wouldn't. The middle years are sadder. Resigned. She's accepted that I'm not coming back, but she can't stop writing. The final years are different. Karma. She's writing to future Diana now, the one she hopes will someday read these words. The last letter is dated January 3rd, 2024. 9 months before she died. My dearest Diana, I'm having a good day today. My mind is clear, at least for now. I don't know how many more letters I'll be able to write. The words are getting harder to find, but I want you to know, even when I forget everything else, I'll never forget you. You are written on my heart, baby girl. No disease can erase that. I don't regret the letters. Not one of them. Even if you never read them, writing to you has kept you alive in my heart. Every week, for 15 years, I've sat down and talked to my daughter. That's a gift. Even if it was one-sided. Even if you never knew. I got to love you. That's enough. That has to be enough. Every single letter ends the same way. I love you, Diana. Forever and always. Mom. 547 letters. 547 I love yous. 547 chances that never reached me until now. I used to wonder what my life would have looked like if Richard hadn't intervened, if I'd received that first letter in March 2009. If I'd called my mother back. If we'd talked through our fight like adults instead of letting silence win. But I've stopped wondering. I can't change the past. I can only decide what to do with the present. And here's what I've decided. I will not let bitterness define me. I will not let Richard's cruelty become my identity. I will raise my children to know their grandmother. Not as a victim, but as a woman who loved fiercely and never stopped fighting. I will build a relationship with Margaret, the aunt I never knew existed, and I will forgive my mother. Not because what happened was okay, but because she deserves to be remembered for more than her worst moment. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's not pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's choosing to put down the weight of anger so you can pick up something lighter. My mother carried guilt for 15 years. She died believing I might never forgive her, but she's forgiven. She was forgiven the moment I read her first letter. She just never got to hear me say it, so I wrote her a letter. I know she can't read it. I know it's just words on paper that will never be opened, but I needed to say it anyway. Dear Mom, I forgive you. I forgive you for the words you said in 2009. I forgive you for not being strong enough to leave Richard. I forgive you for every year we lost. I forgive you because you never stopped trying. 547 letters prove that, and I love you. I always did. Even in the silence, I sealed the letter. Addressed it to Ellen Marie Whitmore, Heaven. Then I put it in a box with all her letters. 548 Now, some conversations don't need both people to be present. They just need one person brave enough to keep talking. If you've made it this far, you know this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about persistence. About a mother who refused to stop loving her daughter, even when she believed that love was unwelcome. It's a story about truth. About how lies can steal years of our lives, but they can't steal our ability to heal once we know what really happened. And it's a story about time. About how it's never too late to read a letter, to forgive a wound, to tell someone, living or dead, that they mattered. 547 letters. 15 years of silence that was never really silent at all, and my mother was talking to me the whole time. I just couldn't hear her. Now I can. And I'll spend the rest of my life listening. If this story meant something to you, I want you to do something for me. Call your mother. Or your father. Or your sister, your brother, your friend you haven't talked to in years. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you're sure they want to hear from you. Just pick up the phone and say, I was thinking about you, that's it. That's all it takes. 547 letters is a lot of love. But one phone call might have changed everything. Before I go, I want to read you one more thing. My mother's favorite letter. The one she wrote on my 30th birthday, halfway through those silent years. Dear Diana, you're 30 today. I can't believe it. I don't know where you are or what you're doing. But wherever you are, I hope you're happy. I hope you're loved. I hope you know that no matter what has happened between us, I am proud of you. Happy birthday, baby girl. I hope all your wishes come true. Love always, Mom. I read that letter on my 38th birthday. 8 years late, but you know what? It still felt like a gift. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, in this room with me, hearing my mother's story. She deserved to be heard. And tonight, because of you, she finally was. Sweet dreams, everyone. And if you haven't already, tell someone you love them. Today. Don't wait. Subscribe if this story moved you, hit the bell so you never miss a new story, and leave a comment telling me about someone you wish you'd called sooner. Until next time, sweet dreams. You know, people ask me all the time, Diana, do you regret those 15 years of silence? And I think about it constantly. What would my life look like if I'd received that first letter back in 2009? Would I have forgiven my mother immediately? Would I have been angry? Would I have confronted Richard 15 years sooner? I'll never know. And honestly, that's the hardest part. But here's what I've learned. Regret is a prison. You can spend your whole life locked inside what ifs and if onlys. Or you can take what you have now, today, and build something beautiful with it. My mother taught me that. Through 547 letters. She never stopped writing. Now, take a breath. Let this story settle. Whatever you're carrying tonight, the worries, the regrets, the things left unsaid, you can put them down for now. Tomorrow, you can pick up the phone. Tomorrow, you can write that letter. Tomorrow, you can start healing. But tonight, rest. You deserve peace. You deserve sleep. You deserve to know that you are loved. Sweet dreams, everyone. I'll see you in the next story.